Hey, it's Throwback Thursday, March 8th, 2018, and I just realized as I said the date, March 8th, that I should have done the Throwback Thursday about the very first Muhammad Ali Joe Frazier World Heavyweight Championship fight. I think it was on March 8th, 1971, if I remember correctly. What a night that was. What an exciting fight. So I guess it's double Throwback Thursday. So Rhino of the Day is right here. This rhino towards the middle of the postcard here. Jared Dog is here. Great seeing you. And so that's because the last 3 days, these have been the rhino of the day for the last 3 days, these three rhinos that came when I did my direct mail Monday and came up with, this came out of the RSVP mailing, of which I stayed online live for 2 hours giving critiques of dozens of different pieces. So if you haven't caught that yet, you might want to invest a little time in your marketing and advertising education and check that out. Phil Brakefield is here as well. Today is I was looking for some stuff, and I was going through my books, and I said, I haven't checked that one out in a while. I used to read this one all the time. As you can see from the side of it, if you can, how tattered and just destroyed this is from just constantly rereading this. This is J. Paul Getty's How to Be Rich. Well, you can't read it, but it's the paperback version that I noticed was published, my version, in 1983. So 35 years ago, I first read this book, and then I read it over and over, and as we go through it, you can see the pages. I got all the asterisks and the underlines and the stars and the notes in the column, and on and on and on, and all the different areas that, books like this that you can read them over and over and over, and you're always going to catch new stuff depending on what position you happen to currently be in. And in my case, what position my clients happen to be in as well. So I see stuff in here. I mean, just about every page has some kind of a mark on it of something. Gee, this, do you ever do this? Like you go through a book and you're like, wow, this is important, and then pretty much I underlined an asterisk and circled just about every single thing on every page. No wonder I just read the whole book over and over. So this originally came when J. Paul Getty was the richest man on earth in 1960, and Hugh Hefner asked him to write a series of articles for Playboy magazine, which ended up being published over the next 5 years. So these were from articles published from 1961 to 1965, as the famous phrase, as people always say, before he died. Well, in this case, I guess it's true, because he could have written them all, and then they could have published them after he died. But this was while J. Paul Getty was at the end of a long, successful career of making gobs and gobs of money. And I love the title, always have, How to Be Rich, because anybody can get rich. There's so much money out there, and it's fairly easy to get as much of it as you want. You provide value, and the more value you provide to the more people, the more money you get. It's an incredibly simple formula. So that's how to get rich. All kinds of people get rich. But how to be rich is a different story, right? So drug dealers can get rich, but would you say they're living a rich life? Being a drug dealer in the ghetto? Or Bernie Madoff, he got rich. Would you say he lived a rich life, ripping everyone off and ruining the lives of his whole family? That even after he was caught, his son committed suicide and this and that. So get rich, one thing. This book was written How to Be Rich. Big difference. So I highly recommend it. And hopefully you will do as I did and read it over and over till it's tattered and destroyed. And miraculously, I still have this, because most of my classic books that I love, at one point or another, I, quote, lent to a client or a colleague. And, of course, that means I never got it back. But this one I still have, and I cherish it. And now I'm going to sit down after I have some dinner, and I'm going to go through this again, because I know I'm going to learn something new from it. So highly recommend the book. Oh, and by the way, another lesson to be learned from J. Paul Getty. While he was the financially most successful guy on the planet, I think he was married 5 times. So as often happens, you have an imbalance, that people that are mega successful in the business or financial area of their life, often that comes at the expense of their private life. And so, unfortunately, that's the cautionary tale from J. Paul Getty. So I mean, obviously, from that I'm not the richest person in life. I believe there's something somewhere in the middle there. That making money is important, but let's not sacrifice everything else in life just to make lots of money, as many financially successful people do. So I hope you feel the same way, and you have a balanced goal of a balanced life, and you live a balanced life, and you don't go off the deep end just to make money. But also, please don't go off the deep end the other direction and say, yeah, my business failed, but at least, I have a happy home life. Like, how about a balance? How about do both really well? Very good. And Phil says, I'm going to send you a new copy and see how long it lasts before you bark it to death again. That's a great point. I would actually destroy the new one as well. It reminds me of the days when I first started doing door-to-door sales, which I ended up doing for 9 years. But in the beginning, I couldn't sell a thing. I was terrible. I pretty much didn't want to get out of the car. I was so bad. And I would sit in the car and I would listen to tapes of the late, great Zig Ziglar. And those are cassette tapes, for those of you that remember such a thing. We'd pop them in the cassette player in the car. And actually, I wore those out. So speaking of marking something to death and wearing it out, I would wear out those Zig Ziglar tapes. I just listened to them over and over and over. And it probably was an extra excuse to not get out of the car and get to work and start getting rejected, because that's what door-to-door sales is. That's what business is. That's what pretty much anything in business you're going to be successful. It's all about getting rejected. I had somebody recently said they didn't want to do something in their business. They didn't want to build their business because they had a fear of rejection. And I was like, there's no fear of rejection. There's a guarantee of rejection. You're going to become an entrepreneur. There's a guarantee of failure. There's a guarantee of downs. But there's also going to be ups, and there's also going to be success, and there's also going to be people that buy. So the door-to-door sales, it was just go around and see how, once enough people have said no, guess what? You sold everything you had. But those days when I was afraid and terrible and so miserable that I would not get out of the car and wouldn't go take the rejection, so I didn't make any sales either. Oops. But I did listen to those Zig Ziglar tapes over and over and actually wore them out till the cassette tape would just break. It was so old. And then I bought a new one. They were like $5 back then. Probably now they're less because nobody has a cassette player. Chad Powers is here. Speaking of my door-to-door sales days, Chad Powers, who was one of the most successful people in that entire company, in the history of the company. And I had the pleasure to meet Chad. Never got to work in the office with Chad, but I worked in an office once that was competing, going back and forth with Chad for the #1 office in the country. Back in the days when I was with Anthony in Deerfield Beach, Florida, and Chad was over in Houston setting records, and we were going back and forth to be #1 and doing all that kind of stuff. So great to see you, Chad. And Phil, thanks for the offer of the free book. Not necessary, but I do like the joke, and I would, in fact, not only would I mark it up to death, but I would likely give the copy away to somebody, because then I'd have two. Who needs two? And thanks, Jerdog. And anybody else that's here live, watching on the replay, that's it for Throwback Thursday, March 8th, 2018. I really believe March 8th. And Phil, being a former boxer yourself, you might be familiar that was the date of the first Ali Frazier fight. March 8th, 1971. I really believe it was. Now I got to look it up. Some more comments we have coming in. Let's see. Phil says, reminds me of the old Stephen Wright joke. Oh, talk about Throwback Thursday. Can you imagine? It's amazing. Stephen Wright jokes are old. I remember a friend of mine, we used to go see Stephen Wright in tiny little clubs in Boston when he was completely a nobody, and we'd be like the only people in the place. And now people know who he is. His joke about driving across the country with a friend of his, see more. Can this? Oh, look at that. The tape player in the car was broken and would only play one song. Can't remember the name. Right. It's a great joke. Great joke by Stephen Wright. Man, drove across country with my friend. We only had one album to play in the car, so we had to play it over and over for the whole trip. Can't remember what that was. That is funny. That's a Stephen Wright joke. I mean, I could go on all night with Stephen Wright jokes. He's the guy that has the world's largest seashell collection. It's spread out among the shores of the oceans all over the world. And that one day that he woke up and he went downstairs in his apartment and somebody had broken in overnight and replaced every single thing he had with an exact replica. All right, enough of Stephen Wright. Jerdog, speaking of comedian, Jerdog is here, of course. So the heck with Stephen Wright. We got our own comedian right here. And he says, I'm at the library right now? What should I check out? Dog is at the who? I mean, I love books, as much as anybody. I can't even remember the last time in the library. What should you check out? Anybody else want to give some suggestions? I mean, I might suggest How to Be Rich by J. Paul Getty. People ask me that a lot, actually. I was on a panel years ago to judge. I was one of the few judges, I think there were 3 of us, for the best business book of the year for some organization. And people are always asking me, what book should I read in groups that I'm in, or mastermind groups, or online forums? And my question back is, what do you want to learn? They asked me what course should I take? Or when I was a Dan Kennedy advisor for 6 years, they would always ask me, what Dan Kennedy product should I get? Well, I would always ask in response, what do you want to learn? What do you want to work on? So, Dog, let me know. And if I'm done by then, let me know in a comment below, what are you interested in? Fiction, nonfiction, something about sales, about marketing, about organization of a business, about attitude, about mindset. I love biographies. Pretty much even reading these articles by J. Paul Getty is somewhat biographical, because you're getting a real insight into the man and how he lived and how he conducted himself. I love biographies. They're extremely motivational to me. And I will tell you that when I read biographies of successful people, I always like to read about the time before they were successful. It's just not as exciting to me, after they became mega successful. So, I don't know, if you're reading about, J. Paul Getty. You can read about J. Paul Getty, and at a certain point in the biography, he would say, well, then, after my first 5 successful oil wells popped out millions of dollars, then I made this deal to open 80 more. I'm like, yeah, that's not as interesting. I'm really interested at the point where he was down on his luck, about to just call it a day, walking out of town and figuring, he was going to be a failure for life. And then he stumbled on somebody said something, and he said, yeah, you know what? I will drill a well over there and see if it works. And boom, success started. That's the point I really love a biography. So if you have no idea at all what to do or what you want, I would check out a biography of somebody successful entrepreneur. Phil says, you are correct on the date of Ali Frazier won. Yeah, I seem to remember that. March 8th, 1971. And I remember that night, and I'm sure you do, Phil, also, because we share our favorite boxer / favorite athlete of all time, Muhammad Ali. And boy, was that awesome. Just the whole deal, obviously, until he got knocked down. We weren't as happy about that, but that was just a fun night. And that's it for Throwback Thursday. So double Throwback Thursday. We have and if I'm thinking here, I don't have any ticket stub or a program or anything about that night. I used to keep the Sports Illustrated issue, and I think that's probably why the date is stuck in my mind, because, but that wouldn't have been the date on the issue. Anyway, that's it for Throwback Thursday. Thanks, everyone, being here live. Thanks to everyone watching on the replay. By the way, the cost of this book, $4.99. Paperbacks today, they're like $20, aren't they? So that's one way to be rich. Sell a lot of books. All right. That's it for Throwback Thursday. Thanks for being here today, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow with Foundation Friday. That's a really basic building tip that I will share that hopefully you will implement, make a lot of money from, and have a lot of fun with. That's it for today. Thanks, everyone, being here today. I'll catch you tomorrow. Bye-bye.